I am the Children's Youth and Family Director here at Midvale, and it is my pleasure to introduce you to most of our New Orleans participants, all dressed in pink, lovely here today, and to really let them be the stars of the show today as we talk about our ELCA Youth Gathering. So our trip dates were July 13th to July 21st of this past summer, and here's most of our group pictured here. So as with most things, we had to be flexible. So Cyrus actually had a family gathering in St. Louis. So he did not depart with us, but he joined us in St. Louis. So this is our group minus Cyrus for this particular photo. And I'll have them introduce themselves throughout the morning. So we took a road trip. It's about 1,100 miles to New Orleans. So I wanted to share some of our journey with you. So who in this group is ready to talk about our stop in Springfield at Lincoln's Tomb or at Motorheads? Ready, set, go. Rock, paper, scissors.
The cheese curd burger at
Stand up and introduce yourself, please.
I'm Raina. The cheese curd burger at Motorheads was really good.
Thanks, Raina. I was like, yeah, we got to start somewhere. Anyone else at Lincoln's Tomb? Any comments on that one?
My name is Sam, and at Lincoln's Tomb, there's that big head. That was kind of cool.
There you go. Big head at Lincoln's Tomb. I expect our content will get better as we keep going, right? But so that was our first step. So again, part of this journey is just us getting to know each other. Did you have one, Tavia? Yeah.
My name is Tavia, and I was just gonna say that the nose, you could see a lot of it was rubbed off because it's supposed to be lucky if you rub the nose.
Oh, there you
I
go.
rubbed the nose.
Well done, Tavia. Thank you. So our really next fun stop is when we got to St. Louis, we went to the City Museum. So if you have not been to the City Museum, it's I describe it as an adult playground almost, right? There's slides and climbing devices and tunnels to crawl through. Who would like to speak about City Museum or the Arch? Clara.
I'm Clara. The City Museum was like really cool because there's like tunnels everywhere, and you wouldn't think that there would be tunnels like everywhere, but they're actually everywhere. And sometimes you're like, that there's no way there's a tunnel here. There's a tunnel there. And so you
Clara,
can just kind of like explore it in your own area.
Hold the mic right up to your mouth.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. And then you can just like explore the whole thing in whichever way you want. So yeah, it's really cool.
Nice. Thanks, Clara. Anyone want to speak more about City Museum or about the Arch?
My name is Mitchell. They had a plane demo outside. You climbed up this like super small tunnel, and there was this old plane that was like 20 feet in the air, which was pretty fun.
Thanks, Mitchell. Dane, you want to go next?
I'm Dane. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of tight squeezes, and that place was not built for me.
Awesome. And anyone about the Arch? We elected not to go up in the Arch. Yeah, Raina, do you want to speak to it?
I did not fall off the arch, Addie. But it was really, really hot. It was like 90 something degrees. We were having our picnic there because we got dinner from a takeout place. And there were these people that were like playing, what was it, a hose or something? Or yeah, water balloons. And then they offered to fill all our water bottles. And that was very, very nice of them because it was so hot.
God's sighting of that day, for sure. Yep. So we were at the Malcolm W. Martin Park across the river from the Arch, just kind of get a bit that photo op. Right, yeah, Tavia.
I would just like to add that we saw someone who had a Superman tattoo on his chest, like the big S, and that was really cool.
Love it. Thank you. All right, so next we headed to Memphis and we went to the National Civil Rights Museum. Would anyone like to share their take on that one?
I think that it was a really neat experience because you don't often get to see, like here, you're not really in the middle of that history. You're kind of viewing it from like a second hand. And obviously there's stuff that happened here. But in Memphis, it was in the motel where Martin Luther King was assassinated. So you were really like right in the middle of it. And it was really cool to see it from that perspective and really like very eye-opening, I guess. Yeah.
I'm Cyrus, and in the museum there was like the actual room that he stayed in the day that he was murdered, and it was really moving to me. I thought that was an interesting perspective.
Thank you.
I'm Kat, and I had been there before, but it was really cool to experience it with a different group of people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Aurora, and I thought it was really cool that there were a bunch of different scenes there and just different like moments in time paused.
So it does kind of take you through the civil rights movement from slavery. So when you first enter the museum, there's this large sculpture. Do y'all remember that one? And I don't remember how many millions this represented of slaves that came up from the slave ship. And the sculpture has no faces and no gender identifiers, just thousands of bodies as they're making their way up. And then we learned about sit-ins. Then we've got our Montgomery bus boycott, freedom rides, Black Power, and then here at the Lorraine Hotel, which is what they were referring to. So anything else on that one? Okay. I remember, do you all remember the specific sit-in room? I'm not remembering that one. Greensboro, thank you. Yeah. And then we had to have some fun after all that heavy stuff. Then it was time to go check out some barbecue and walk down Beale Street. Anyone want to speak to that experience?
The ribs were amazing.
I know I got to share a rack of ribs with Brenda, and yeah, that was good.
Yep, give Clara her microphone.
I will also add about the ribs. I have never had ribs before, and I'm not really like somebody who really likes meat, and I was like, okay, I'll just try it. That was like the best thing I've ever tasted.
I got a harmonica on Beale Street, and I also got a Nina Simone record. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Then I had to get that record back home, so that was stressful. But it's safe and sound. It's in my room. Yep.
You. Love it. Yeah, a little cultural immersion before we got to New Orleans. And then we decided to head down to Biloxi. So we'll get to the beach next, but if you want to speak about our first Waffle House experience, anyone want to speak to that or the pool?
Waffle. There's a food theme here, and I recognize that. But Waffle House was like the thing that I was probably the most excited about because it's like an urban legend that I finally got to experience, and that was really, really great. And I had the best blueberry pancakes ever.
Mm-hmm. So Waffle House is kind of like a cross between, I don't know, a McDonald's and an IHOP, I guess, if I had to say that those two. It's like almost fast food, but not quite. It's fast diner food. And when we went in there, the restaurant was completely full. I don't know if anyone wants to speak to that and how quickly anyone else. Yeah, Tavia's going to speak to that.
It was fast food and the workers were moving very, very fast. It was like full. There was like kind of a big line, but it didn't take that long to get through because everything was so fast moving.
Yeah.
And the workers were working very hard, and it just looked like kind of a well-oiled machine in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was
They do not have group seating. They have kind of dining for 2 or for 4. And so as our big group came in unannounced and we're like, hey, we're hungry and we're hot and we're tired, can we eat? and when they said, well, it'll be just a little bit. And our group was like, I don't want to wait. And we're like, have faith, right? So we sat down and I don't think we waited more than 10 minutes tops for every single one of our group to be seated somewhere. And then we were probably out of there in, I don't know, 20 minutes. Like it was quite an experience. So it was a fun one. But now the one y'all really want to talk about is finally checking out the Gulf. So, oh, did you, Dane? Sorry. Yeah.
I was gonna say that there were not a lot of seats there, but I sat with Brenda and I had a lot of fun catching up with her.
I had fun with that too. Forced them to sit next to me. I loved it. All right. For those who we wanted to check out the Gulf Coast. Yeah, Aurora. Oh,
I did
Aurora.
not enjoy that experience as much because I got stung by a jellyfish, but
That was not the authentic experience we were after.
There was another type of jellyfish. Oh, my bad. There's another type of jellyfish in the water, and we were picking those up, and they looked pretty cool.
I'm Isaiah. I thought this was a great experience. My sororist getting stung by a jellyfish. Some of our group got up at like 5:30 or 6. We went for a morning run. We got to see the sunrise, which is really, really cool. And spending time playing, spike ball, sitting in the water, which is great with the group.
Yep. Yep, Sam's got his hand. Let's get him the microphone.
The there's we were going to see the sunset or sunrise, but then it doesn't rise in the south. So then, yeah, that's a problem.
So when we got back from our run, we were really tired and really hot, and I was running with Kat. Yeah, it was a struggle. But we got back and we were sitting at breakfast, and there was like a really sweet interaction happening between the woman that like was cooking the breakfast and these two women that were sitting and eating, and that was really sweet. Also, when we left the beach, we saw a stingray in the water.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And I probably should have started our presentation by saying we had 15 youth who came with us and 4 adults. And so those 15 youth were all entering high school. And 2 of those youth were from Pennsylvania. They were actually Isaiah's cousins. And so this exact group of people had never been together all together before. So we had to do some of these intentional bonding experiences to kind of get the group comfortable with what was going to come next. And they all got pretty comfortable. I like it. Anything else on the Gulf? Yeah, Brian.
My name is Brian. Actually, on the way to Biloxi, there was an interesting event. So, as you may or may not know, and it's into the whole bonding thing in a second, Safari Maps and Google Maps are not exactly the same. And so, just when you switch one vehicle, switch lanes, that's when the fork in the road happens. And so that is also what happens when a rainstorm that made yesterday's storm that rolled through here at like 3:30 look like a little sprinkle. So our van was great. I thought, if they weren't terrified, I don't know what was wrong with them, but we drove through pitch black and it was pouring like cats and dogs. And when it was the darkest, literally the darkest, our van got together and played a game and went through it, and it was wonderful. So
That's
then
awesome.
we all met up at the end of the night, and it all turned out well.
Dave, do you want
do you care to recount it slightly differently, Dave?
So Brian and Stephanie drove one van and Dave and I drove the other.
Yeah, Brian had Google Maps. I had Apple Maps, and it took us right through the heart of the storm. And so we were white knuckling down some country road until we found a gas station. We all piled out. We decided to sit there for 20 more minutes after we got back in the van, and then we drove back. So
fine,
yeah.
we had snacks. It was good.
Exactly. It was all good.
All right, so our welcome into New Orleans, we decided to have dinner at the Royal House Oyster Bar. So for many of them, it was their first chance to try oysters and alligator. Yeah, anyone want to speak to that experience?
I had never had either alligator or oysters. I liked alligator. Oysters were my favorite, but it was cool to try both of them.
Personally, I really liked the alligator, but the oysters were a little bit goopier than I thought it'd be.
I tried to try the oyster, but it didn't work out too well. So, yeah.
How many of you have had oysters in the crowd? How many of you raise your hand if you've had? Okay. Oh, a good number. Okay. For those of you who haven't tried oysters, what's the process of eating an oyster? Do you want to share that with the group who may not know? First, you have to like use your fork and what I didn't have an oyster. You got to speak to it.
I mean, you kind of like detach the oyster, I guess, from the
shell.
From the shell.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of supposed to like almost like slurp it up with your mouth. Like you put it up to
Right.
your mouth.
Like you don't
and-
chew.
Yeah, and then you
You
like
gotta like
slurp it in.
slide this slimy thing down your throat. Bah!
I think
Y'all can tell what I think of that.
I think these were maybe hard oysters to start with though, because these were really, really big oysters. Yeah, they were huge oysters. The oysters I'd had before were smaller, and but I think the fried oysters were really good.
Mhm.
They were seasoned and all that, but the raw ones are definitely more of an experience.
Yeah. And they let us have our own private dining area upstairs, which was really nice. And then, so our group has many varied interests. So at the beginning, before we even started out on our journey, I had asked them, what are some of the top things you want to do or experience in New Orleans? And for some of them, they really wanted to experience authentic live jazz. And so part of our group went to what would be Preservation Hall. Since Preservation Hall was under renovations, they ended up going to the Toulouse Theater with the Preservation Hall artists. The other part of the group wanted to go on a haunted tour of New Orleans, a walking tour through the French Quarter, learning about the haunted history. So whoever wants to speak to either of those experiences.
I went to Preservation Hall. The amount of people that went to Preservation Hall was definitely smaller than the ghost tour, but I thought it was a great experience. There was this trombonist. Well, I should say it was a jazz group, and there was a singer, and then a trumpet player, a bass player, a trombonist, and like someone was on the piano for a little bit. But one of the trombonists was fabulous. He was super into it. He really made the crowd get into it, and very very engaged with us. And I thought it was great. Like it was almost like you were performing with him instead of just watching the performance. So I thought it was a really good time.
I went on the haunted ghost tour, and it was a lot of fun for the first 45 minutes. And then a couple of us just could not do it anymore, so we went and got beignets and went back to the hotel.
It was in the 90s with like 90% humidity. Even when the sun went down. It was very crowded. There were about 30 people on the walking tour. So the streets of New Orleans are very narrow, so you have to stay very, very close to each other. And so, yeah, I think probably the group that did the haunted tour may have wished they'd done the air-conditioned Preservation Hall experience, but
I was on the haunted ghost tour, and to add on to Dane's thing, she had too much excitement for how hot it was inside. And how
this
much
is our
water
tour
was
guide
left.
here. So
Yeah, I was also on the ghost tour. I definitely wish I went to go see the guys because that sounded sweet. Yeah, and it was interesting for the first, like Dan said, like 45 minutes, and then she just kept going and going, and we didn't see any ghosts, so it wasn't that interesting.
no ghosts.
There was a new instrument. Was it a sousaphone? But it was huge, and this guy was like, he was older, but he had this giant metal, like, it looked like something out of a Dr. Seuss book. Like it was ginormous. But it was so cool to hear everybody get together, and they were just kind of winning it, like, like jazz. Uh and it was really neat. And the trombonist, we got a picture with him at the end, like our little group did. And Ryan talked to him for a little bit at the beginning, but we didn't know. I mean, we ended up knowing, but yeah, it was really neat.
That's so cool. Okay.
So yeah, I did talk with just hanging out before the show, talking to the people up at the they were just hanging out in the staging area, and turns out he didn't even have his piece on him at the time. And I was just talking to this guy, striking up, oh yeah, you guys are artists, whatever, not having no clue who this guy really was.
Yeah.
He's like, well, yeah, it's like, can I get a picture with you? He's like, oh yeah, yeah. And the guy sitting next to him, he's like, oh yeah, get your piece too. I'm like, oh, so like you're playing tonight. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's talking about just how it inspires his songwriting and things like that he's doing on the side. And he's like, yeah, it's a good thing you got the picture now because it's going to be pretty crazy later. Well, sure enough, this guy stole the show. And yeah, people were lining up for blocks, it seemed like, after the show. So good times.
That's really cool. Oh, Sam, do you want to add?
So like right at probably like 15 minutes to the end of the show, the trombonist, he was like, oh yeah, I can play piano too. And then started playing piano.
Oh yeah, like no big deal. I can do that too. Love it. All right, another noteworthy experience for our group was going on the Cajun Pride Swamp Tour. And you can see many of our group got to hold a baby alligator. Anyone want to speak to that?
Okay, so like the only time I've been down south really was Florida, like to go to Disney World. So I'd never really experienced anything like this tour before. I saw a lot of new animals that I never really would have seen outside of a zoo. And at one point, as you can see in the pictures, the guide brought out a baby alligator from just like a little box in the back of the boat that we hadn't really noticed was there. And I was one of the first people that he passed the alligator to. and the first one out of our group, so I wasn't really sure what was going on. But then he handed me the alligator, and I just kind of took it, and it was actually really cool. I a little bit thought that I was gonna get bitten, but I didn't. It was okay. Our group also named him Tony. My family knows him as Timmy. Um, and yeah, it was really cool.
I thought it was a really cool experience. The first part of it wasn't like too exciting. We didn't see too many gators, and then we like sort of ran into the side of the river, and I was like, "Oh shoot, are we stuck?" And then he started like calling, and then a bunch of gators like just like probably I don't know how many it was. It was like 10, but they all swam up to the boat and he started feeding them. And then he pulled the gator out of the back of the boat, so we all got to hold. So that was cool too.
Before he started feeding all the gators, we saw a bunch of raccoons.
We did. Yep.
Also, when we pulled over to the side, like Cyrus said, he actually got down. He flipped up a flap on the end of or on the side of the boat, and he got down on his knees with all the alligators and started feeding them with like a stick. And he was like taunting them with splashing water in their face. And I was like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah, we kept he fed them hot dogs and marshmallows, so that was pretty cool.
It was really fun to talk to the guide because he had a lot of cool stories. And he also said that he hadn't been doing it for very long at all. So I was just very impressed that he was so brave for not having been doing this for very long.
Okay. This was another day where our group divided based on their interests. So about half of our group went to the National World War II Museum, while another part of our group went to the Mardi Gras Museum. So whoever wants to speak to their.
So I already went down to New Orleans to the pretty much the exact same places a few months before, and World War II was kind of the one of the ones I wanted to go see again because there was just so much information there that I couldn't get it all in one visit. So I was happy that I finally got to read all of it because there was just so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna second that. What Mitchell said. There was so much stuff. Our group, I felt like we had a pretty fast pace, but we probably didn't even get to see like half of what the museum had to offer, which was like also really neat, just because like it was so well done as well and very realistic, and like had huge props, huge planes hanging from the ceiling. It was amazing.
I would definitely agree with that. Lauren and I didn't get through the entire museum either because we spent a lot of time in the submarine doing a photo shoot, as you can see the but it was really fun and it was a great experience.
All right, Clara needs the microphone and Raina too.
I just wanted to speak because my group went to the Mardi Gras Museum. And so the first thing that we did was we went into like this room where there was a video presentation about like the history of Mardi Gras and just like videos from the past like 30, 50 years of Mardi Gras parades. And then we got to like go take a tour and like actually watch people working on these floats. And it was really cool. Like there was a girl that looked like she wasn't really any older than us, maybe even younger, and she was just like paper macheing this giant head, and I was just like, whoa, that's cool.
Mardi Gras World is inside a warehouse, and it was the same temperature. It was so hot. And it was like steamy too, because you had all this like there was equipment all over you, and it was loud. Like it was you were walking through the same parts of the warehouse where they were building stuff. But my favorite is that we got to see a Lorax float that looked like he had been through some stuff. um, but yeah, that was great. And yeah, he was like chipping, and you had all these floats were just falling apart, but it was so cool. And we also got to try king cake at the beginning.
Nice.
There were a lot of people working, but also at one point, they introduced us to this robot. I can't remember what it was called. What was it? Yeah, but it was like a robot that was actually cutting a whole, like starting on an actual float. Exactly. Exactly.
Nice. The pigeon maybe, I don't know. Raina, can you do it in the microphone so they can hear you?
Sorry. Okay, so we went to this after Mardi Gras World, we had like a bunch of time left. So we went to this glass store. Like it was really cool. It was this little studio and it was just a block from where we were eating that night. And there was a very like eccentric woman that was working there and she was like so fun to talk to, but we told her that the rest of our group had gone to the World War II museum and that we had gone to Mardi Gras World, and she said, "You should have gone to the World War II museum." And I said, "Well, darn." Like, what am I supposed to say to that? I don't know. And so, but we just kept talking to her. She let us back into this little workshop where they do glass blowing classes and like print classes and all sorts of things. It was like a collective of artists. And then she started telling us about these World War II pigeon glass sculptures that her and her students make. And this one pigeon that ended up delivering a message. It was messenger pigeons that ended up delivering a message that saved like a lot of people. But then this pigeon had to get a prosthetic leg because he lost his leg when he was it was a really, really crazy 30-minute thing. Like it was, and she just kept talking. She had more information about these pigeons, and it was great.
Okay, so I could be misremembering, so someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she said that a bunch of like celebrities or like really rich people all raced pigeons. Is that right? She said like Mike Tyson, like Queen of England, like all of them all raced pigeons.
Yeah, she had like
And-
conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
That's
I'm not
great.
sure if it was correct, but that's what she told us, and I thought that was really interesting.
So now you're starting to see their personalities coming through a little bit, right? And so really, again, I know we haven't even gotten to the actual experience yet, but all of this is part of what we want at Midvale is for them to grow in community with each other, to have these cultural experiences. Oh, the scavenger hunt day. We're almost to the actual event. Anyone want to speak about the scavenger hunt all around the city?
My mom got really into it, like freakishly into it. She was, yeah, and Clara too.
Yes.
But they were, yeah.
So loyal Stephanie isn't down here enjoying this with us because she's teaching our preschoolers upstairs this morning. So we thank her for that, but I'm glad you represented her in this.
Oh, one sec. I was like super into it as well. I was like, oh, I'm not a competitive person. And then I was like, wait, actually, we could probably win this. And so I was like, okay, come on, let's go do the next thing. And I think half the people were like, okay, sure, I guess we can do this. But then like, I think as we went on and we got closer to actually winning the thing, people got more into it. We did actually end up winning. And we got extra points. So like we won against like everybody. Yeah.
So this was on our synod day. The morning of that day, we were wandering all around the city, and the goal was you had to have your picture taken at certain places, and then once you got to the place, you'd find the clue for another place. So we were competing against 500-ish other people for the prize of the day, and our group did come in first. So they were very excited about that.
I want
Oh, I won't play the video. Does anyone, since Ford can't be here today, does anyone want to represent what Ford was all about? No, no one wants to speak to that experience. We'll just, Raina's going to do it? Okay.
Who's gonna carry the boats? The logs.
Which all of you are like, what are you talking about? So Ford, my son, he's got a big personality if you don't know him. And so he took it upon himself to be the ambassador of fun anytime we were walking from one place to another in New Orleans. And when we're all walking as a group and we're all having our little conversations, he, at the top of his voice, would yell out, who's going to carry the boats? And the group is supposed to respond, the logs. And it's a David Goggins quote, but it just got them excited that who's going to do the hard work? We're here to do it, right? So we have videos of him all over New Orleans doing that fun stuff.
He lost his voice.
He did.
In like
he did lose his voice.
24 hours, 2 days.
You want to watch it? I don't know if it's going to come through. I didn't test it to see if it'll actually work. I don't hear any volume though, so I'm not sure. Yeah, you can see everyone's just like, oh, Ford. Everyone else is like, oh, why are we doing this? All right. So then we'll get to our Smoothie King Center. That's where we worshiped with 16,000 of our closest new best friends. Anyone want to speak about just being at that center and in that experience?
We got on the big thing. We got it on the
The Jumbotron.
Tron for like 5 seconds, but we were on.
It was a moment because we won the the scavenger hunt. We got to be up on the Jumbotron.
Man, it was like an unreal atmosphere.
Yeah.
I feel like it was probably more hyped than like an actual basketball game. Like there was everyone was just excited and like it felt like a huge community. It was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was a great experience. There was lots of fun, different aspects to it. We had the house band, which was like singing and performing when the speakers were not speaking, and that was an awesome experience to be able to hear 16,000 other kids singing these lyrics also, and getting just as excited as you were, and just being like, I don't know, in that environment together. And then the speakers also, of course, were amazing. Just like they all had such amazing experiences with their faith and just life experiences to share with us. And they were from all different backgrounds and all different types of people,
Yeah.
which was just like
I'm going to
cool
pull them up individually in a moment so we can speak to them specifically. I don't know if you've all been to an event where they have maybe lighters come out, right, with their moving back and forth. Well, now with technology, flashlights on your phone are the new lighters, right? So you take your phone, and we all got to kind of do a little wave with that. So I don't know how much of our speakers you'll actually remember. I'll highlight a few of them.
Could I say one more thing?
Oh yeah, I'll go back. Sorry, Dane.
I was gonna say, to be honest, it didn't really feel like a church event. Like there was a lot of lights flying all over the place, and there was like a DJ that was playing intense music. I mean, obviously Christian music, but intense music.
Yeah, it's
A
a
lot of fun.
spectacle. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. One more thing really fast. One of my favorite parts was just interacting with everyone else. Like you would just walk down the street and there would be a group of people in matching shirts and you could just talk to them. Everyone was so friendly. I traded bracelets with people. You would a lot of the time get things just stuck on your everyone had the same drawstring backpack and you would just turn around and there would be like stickers on your backpack out of nowhere or like clips, which I thought was funny.
Yeah. Thank you for that. You all are the stars of the show. I'm just suggesting things. So if you're ready to go next, do you all remember Michael Chan? I don't know if you want to speak to any of our specific speakers. So again, high motivational speakers. I don't know if all of you know Michael Chan, but he reminded our youth that you're precious long before you could prove it. You were born in the shadows of the womb, but made to be light for the world. So again, just that reminder about being created to be brave being one of our themes. Okay, I know it's a long time to remember our specific speakers. For Created to be Authentic, our main speaker was Emily Harkins, and she wanted to remind us that God sees all of who we are, that we are created in God's image and we are all very good. So again, these are messages we want our youth to come away with. Created to be Authentic. Do you remember Jacqueline Bussey? She had the dumpster. Y'all remember that one, right? Maybe. So she had some unfortunate experiences in her life. She lost her partner of many, many years. And so she had gone down kind of a downward spiral, but she then kind of brought that back to say, we are a people that even when the bad things happen, we need to dance anyway. We need to sparkle anyways and know that we're loved always. Any other comments on Jacqueline? Okay. You're like, nope. We had Austin Channing Brown for our Created to be Free, reminding us of the justice work that needs to be happening, that the work isn't that people are experiencing homelessness, the work is finding housing for them, right? So that kind of making those distinctions between the people aren't the work, there are systems and situations that are the work that we need to work towards. And then some of you met Pastor Keats Miles Wallace, right? So maybe you want to speak to them a little bit more. Yeah, Reno maybe wants to speak to that.
So Claire and I and was Aurora, Claire, I and Aurora, we were they had a dance party every night in the hotel in like a ballroom. And as we were walking out because it got like too loud and just too much, we met this person and we were like, wait, you spoke this morning. You spoke like 5 hours,
You were up
3 hours
there
ago.
on
Like
stage.
we literally like saw you and we exchanged bracelets and we talked for a second. We got a picture, which is the one down there. But that was really neat. And they were very nice, and very kind. Yeah.
Very cool. So again, they kind of gave that message that God created us authentically who we're meant to be. And isn't it great when you discover all of those parts of yourself, right? So living into that experience. And then created to be disruptive, we met Sally Azar, who's the first Palestinian female to be ordained in the Holy Land. She actually had come to New Orleans as a youth in 2012 to come to the youth gathering. So it was a full circle experience for her. Any additional comments? Nope. All right. Fair enough. We'll go quickly. So then we had a service day. We had one day where, oh yeah, do you want me to go back, Claire, or you want to speak to this one?
That wasn't there.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So there's another woman whose name was Lori Fuller, I
Yes.
think.
Yes.
And she was like fully deaf, and her whole speech was in sign language, and she had an interpreter who actually spoke. And I thought that was really cool, being hard of hearing. And so I was like, well, this is awesome. And so actually 2 weeks later, I emailed her saying like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing this. Turns out she went to the same high school as my mom and graduated the same year. So
Oh my gosh, I did not know that
Uh,
story, Claire. That's
yeah.
amazing.
the small world.
Whoa, that is so cool. Yeah, Clara was very moved. I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that or not, but that was a very, very meaningful experience for her. All right, so the day that we were called to serve, one of the tenets of the gathering is you spend a day doing service work. So we went to the Holly Grove Dixon neighborhood. Anyone want to speak to the work that we did or the people that we encountered there?
It was really hot,
That is a theme of this whole time.
but it was really fun and it was really good to help like the community, and it was a good bonding experience. So yeah.
There was like this guy who was like did he lead the community center?
Mhm.
Okay. So he was like talking about how this neighborhood was like super like famous and stuff. So then then they built like this big highway and it like split up the community. So then the famous side is on the other side of the highway. And then there's like the less famous side, I guess, that's on the side that we were on. And he's talking about how like everybody thought that, oh, this neighborhood is so great because like so clean and like all these things are perfect because like it's like a movie neighborhood or something like that. But then they didn't realize that there was another side of the neighborhood that was like neglected. So then, yeah, we were on that side helping clean up.
So when we were I forget, we were wheeling something down the street, and this guy he lived in the neighborhood, and he pulled up in his car and he had a cooler full of waters in the back that he offered to us. So I thought that was nice.
There was another point. What were we moving? It was something. Maybe it was a tire. Ford and I and yeah, a group of us. We were all moving this tire, and it was like the drop off site for all of the trash that we were picking up. The neighborhood told all of the residents to put out anything that that was trash on the curb. So we were just going through and picking up all this trash just to clean it up, and then anything that was already there, like piles of tires. So we had this tire, and this man pulled up in the truck, and he was like, "Do you guys need help moving that?" And we were like, I mean, ideally, but like I don't like, I feel bad. And he was like, "Oh, I'll take it for you." We were like, "Really?" Because it was a long way and we were just rolling this giant tire. And he put it and we told him where the drop-off site was, and he put it in the back of his truck and went and dropped it off. And we didn't see him again, but like that was a really, really sweet thing of him to do, and that really showed like the community, and that was very kind.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we were doing large item pickup because the neighborhood didn't have the means to get rid of most of these items themselves. And so again, we had many, many tires, our stacks of tires here. I don't remember. There were lawn furniture, there was old appliances that didn't work. And so again, just many of those things. Go ahead, Isaiah.
Yeah, just adding on to Reina, I think that the community members were super welcoming and super kind. I mean, they could have easily been annoyed or mad that like hundreds of kids from out of town are coming into their neighborhood and just, causing a ruckus. Obviously, we were picking up trash, but we were still invading their space in their neighborhood. But they were super kind and super welcoming, and that was just great. It felt like a I felt like we were helping them out, and they were very thankful for that, which is great.
It was my birthday that day, and it made my whole day that I got to see so many people smile from helping them pick up trash.
Mm-hmm. So you'll see Aurora here in her, well, no, you don't have your birthday crown on here, but at our launch site. So all of us, before going out to this service site, we had to meet at the convention center to board buses. And there was probably like, I don't know, a couple thousand people there. And we got Aurora up on the stage and everyone sang happy birthday to her. And then everywhere we went that day, we were screaming or singing happy birthday all down the streets of New Orleans. And then people would chant back or respond back. So that was kind of a fun experience too. Ford did initiate a lot of that, yes. Anyone else want to say more about our service day? All right, how about our interaction center, what I would call our play and pray ground, where you got to kind of do all these different physical elements as well as have representation from Lutheran colleges and have representation from seminaries and other organizations.
It was really fun. Me, Tavy, and I all got our hands covered in paint and put a handprint on Brenda's t-shirt, which was a really fun experience. And we all put it on each other's too. So yeah, I haven't watched. Well, I have watched it.
I've watched it, but it doesn't wash out.
Yeah, it doesn't wash out. So it's like very
permanent reminder.
Yeah, I really liked this experience because there was just something to do everywhere, and it got pretty crowded eventually, but then that just meant there were more people to talk to, really. There was a lot of big inflatable, like you can see there was Hungry Hippos, which Brenda did with us after some convincing, and that was really fun. And they had the slides and like bouncy houses and stuff like that, and it was really cool. And it kind of felt like we were just decked out and everything by the end of the day, because I mean, it was also kind of from the start to the end of the week, but like we had clean shirts and like pretty like normal looking bags, but then by the end of the day we had paint all over us. We had stickers, we had all this like random clips and accessories and sign our shirt. Kat wrote sign my shirt on all of our shirts, and they didn't get signed very much, but it was so fun. After some asking.
This was one of my favorite days, I think, just because we were able to interact so much with kids from different churches in different states. A memorable thing that happened was some of us were playing a soccer game against a different congregation from Philadelphia, and that was a very competitive game. It was lots of fun, but just like in good spirits, and everyone was just happy to be there and happy to meet new people.
We met a group of kids from New York as well while we were playing spike ball, and we actually they were staying at the same hotel as us, and we ended up playing spike ball with them at the hotel like another time. So we met up with them again. So that was kind of cool. Those are some cool guys.
We got to see Lutheran colleges, which I think Claire and I both really enjoyed because, you know, college, yeah, yeah, we got a lot of stuff. So I have like bandana, but that was really neat, I think, and everyone was very, very kind. Also, that was the best rug burn ever. Like I got so many rug burns. It was so worth it.
I feel like I should share for Ford. He's not here today, but he was very invested in the colleges. He for those of you who don't know, he's really big into hockey. He's a hockey goalie, and his main goal that day was to figure out where he was going to go to college. And I went with him, and he went up to every college, and he asked them, "Do you have a hockey team?" And a lot of them did not because they were smaller colleges, but he still was super interested, and he was very attentive and very engaged with these people. And I think they had just as much fun as he did, because I don't think that they probably had another person as engaged as he was the whole day. But we went to probably every college they had there. And he then found a college that had a Division I hockey team. I do not remember which college it was.
Augustana in South Dakota.
Yep. You should have seen the look in his eyes. They just lit up.
I know.
But so he did accomplish his goal, and that's where he says now, I think. I don't know if he changed his mind.
Oh, no, no.
He said that's where he wanted to go to college. So.
And then we need to talk about our Region 5 worship opportunity because our very own Raina was one of the worship leaders for that event. And we're so proud of her. Here she is with Bishop Joy. Do you want to, I guess, Raina specifically, do you want to speak to that event?
So this was actually, my goodness, sorry. This was actually the same day as our synod wide or state
Scavenger hunt.
scavenger hunt.
Yeah.
Bishop Joy was our last person to find, and we needed a picture, and that's why that picture is there. I mean, also like now I have a picture, but that was really neat. We were at a brunch restaurant. The
Court of Two Sisters.
Yeah, Court of Two Sisters.
Mhm.
And Brenda and I walked over back to the convention or back to like the convention center, so that I could get there a little bit early because I still wasn't like quite sure what was going on. And it was really, really neat. I went up and I like said the prayer that they had given me, went back down, and then one of my friends, who's at a different church but also in Madison, saw me up on stage, and she came up afterwards and she said, Raina, I didn't know you were here. And I said, Tessa, I didn't know you were here. And so that was really,
Yeah.
like really fun. And because I wouldn't have known she was there if I hadn't
Yep.
taken this opportunity. So
100%. Oh, Jody has a question. Oh, thank you. I'm actually going to throw that, Pastor Blake. Would you be so kind as to explain better than I can what Region 5 represents?
Sure, the ELCA is just divided up into geographical regions, so it's Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I could have fudged that, but I like your answer better.
I met some people I knew, and I got the flex on them that we won because they were second place and they didn't get the bonus points that we got, so they were 10 behind.
Nice.
It was fun.
and communion at this giant worship was like that was a lot. It was really cool because you just had streams of people going up and taking communion and trying to figure out what line you're supposed to be in. And yeah, it was great.
Holy chaos, we call that. All right, anyone want to talk about our hotel life? Gathering together every night, we'd gather for the final 15. That's our chance to check in as a group. So if you can imagine 19 people in one hotel room can get a little cramped together. All trying to get in the elevator here at the same time, all squeezing in the hot tub at the same time. Anything else you want to say about hotel life? Any of our hotels?
We played cards a few times, and that was pretty fun.
All right.
I would just like to say that so before we were supposed to go shopping to get food for the hotels, we got way too much food.
We got way too
so
much food.
We did not eat like maybe half of it.
We
Got
didn't.
so much extra.
I thought you'd be hungrier. I don't know. All right, and then our final.
I was gonna say,
Oh, I'll go back.
Mitchell and I did not get enough food in our hotel room.
Did better. We had
Yeah.
some reallocation of food could have happened. And then just our return home finally. Our ride home was pretty straight shot. We did take Lauren and Julian to the airport so they could fly back to Pennsylvania. And then we kind of started our long drive home. So yeah, Raina.
The airport is where we did final worship, which ended up final worship. Everybody was trying to get out of New Orleans at the same time. So we kind of decided, you know what? We probably don't want to do that because Lauren and Julian need to get to the airport. And so we ended up watching this final worship on, I think, Facebook.
Yep,
maybe.
yep. We did not get to experience the final worship in
But
person.
It was
Had a couple snafas that day of how things went, but
it was a really, it was even nicer to just
Yeah.
be sitting all together, and being able, we were all of our phones were like a second off of each other. So you would hear something from someone else's phone and then you would hear it on your phone. But that was probably one of my favorite worships that we did.
It's cool. I didn't realize that. And this is your opportunity to give thanks to our congregation, those gathered here. So if all of you can offer a thanks out, thank you. And then let's see, is there any questions from the crowd? Because we went through, well, actually, let me start with you. Is there anything that we didn't cover in the slides that you want to make sure you share with the group?
That was one of the best birthdays ever.
You're never going to be able to top that one. 16,000 people celebrating with you. Anything about any part of it?
It was really good to get to know Lauren.
Yes.
It was really, I'm really glad I made a new friend.
Yes. And I saw somebody down there, Brian.
Maybe the timing's not so good. Maybe I could just save it for later. But when we left the service day, which was really incredible, we got into our air-conditioned bus, and everybody else in the neighborhood was still there. And the takeaway was, well, what are you going to do when you go out in the world? I'm still working on that. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Rick.
Can you tell us when the next trip is and where you go?
So we do a 3-year rotation for youth trips. We do a service learning experience, what might have formerly been called a mission trip. We do an outdoor adventure trip, and then we do the ELCA Youth Gathering. So during a high school career, they'll have a chance to do each of those types of trips at least once. Next year is an outdoor adventure trip, and our group is leaning heavily into Sky Ranch in Colorado. It's not finalized yet, but that's what we're leaning into because they want a backpacking / rafting experience. Good. Minneapolis. Nice and close to home. Yeah,
Yeah, 2027.
that's right, 2027. Yeah. Any other comments out here? Any other comments up here? Raina, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, we had something for you. Because you were such an awesome group leader. So
Yeah.
we
Wow, okay.
we were trying to be discreet when we were signing the card. I don't think we were, but we tried our best.
Am I supposed to open it now?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
some so
I'll let
for
Maeve
context-
ask her question and then yes.
Can I get my donut ball?
Of course you can. There you go. All right. So yes, Raina.
If it's okay, I'm Jody Thill. I'm Sam's mom, Brian's wife, and I was left at home. Well, and I have to say that, like, from being at home, it was an amazing experience too, to like, you kind of learn some things, but like to hear about it when they came back. But I wanted to share about Stephanie Granger. I don't think she'd mind me sharing.
Yeah, I don't think so
Like,
either.
we talked a lot about, she's very nervous about going. She was nervous about the drive down there. She was nervous about being in community with this many people that like weren't going to be like overly like super full on like indoctrinated religious, like whatever. And getting out of the van, like, so we were all waiting in the parking lot and getting out of the van, she was like, well, when we go to Minneapolis, and I was like, I take it was a good trip. So just to see that experience too, like through the eyes of the kids, but even more so through the eyes of the adults that went along, was just super, super cool. And Brenda, her leadership and like forethought and planning was unbelievable from the other side of it too.
So for those of you who don't know, I plan out an itinerary. I plan exactly when we're going to take bathroom and gas stops. It's on the itinerary. At 6:02, we will be at a stop. And so we stopped at, I think, 10 different Love's gas stations along the way. So to commemorate, I have my Love's swag. Thank you, my friends, that I can remember how much I love all of you. That's so fun.
Anybody else with a question? The kids? Can be you in a few years.
Yeah. Was it? Okay. Well, thank you so much for your time today.
Oh.
Oops. Was that me?
Yeah, and Sarah too.